All right, hi guys, welcome to this video and welcome to this channel. My name is Laura from Pleiadian Healer, and today I have Adam on again from Sugartree Truth. Hi Adam, how are you?
Hello everyone. Hello Laura.
Yeah, so we already kind of
I'm very
talked
well, thank you.
beforehand. Sorry?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Oh yeah, good.
Cool.
So Adam and I had the chance to do a video in the past about Tartaria and all about Tartaria.
Yeah,
And today
lost
we want to,
civilization.
sorry?
A lost civilization,
Right.
isn't it? Would you say?
And today we want to kind of go into the next lost civilization or just overall the next concept. So we're going to start off with Atlantis, possibly Lemuria. It all kind of ties into each other, at least in my opinion.
Well,
And
because
Adam's going to be able to share some interesting screens again, too. So you wanted to talk about the overall picture of Atlantis.
yeah. Well, I
Okay.
was thinking whether or not because one of the arguments what I've heard for saying that it's like basically a myth or it's isn't real sort of thing is saying that there's no kind of geological way that a continent can sink, basically disappear, in terms of nature, without kind of thinking that this was, it was sunk intentionally by somebody. It's like they're sort of saying that there's nothing, what could do it naturally, what could sink a continent. So it's whether or not that's sort of got any truth to it, or whether somebody else, has been engineered in some way.
Yeah, when I actually first heard about Atlantis, I think I was a kid. And I remember my mother watching this TV documentary on the lost city of Atlantis. Have you ever heard about that?
I've seen some stuff about. There's a lot of films. I've not actually seen that series, but I know there's a lot of like stuff out there. So yeah, I mean, I would watch it. Yeah, I'd be interested in checking it out.
So yeah, it was a documentary. It was on German TV. I'm not really sure if it was a German program or if it was translated from the English because I was very young. But basically, it was about this city which was supposed to be somewhere in my what I kind of understood from that program was it was somewhere around Greece or Italy, and that the city got flooded and then it was underground. So it wasn't. They were describing Atlantis as a city, not a continent. And that was
Right.
the first time I ever heard about it, the lost sunken city of Atlantis. And the way it
Yeah.
looked with the pillars and like the old Greek or old Roman mythology in it,
Yeah.
I kind of
The sort
saw
of
it
the columns and
as,
the triangles and stuff like that.
yeah, the city to me almost looked a bit like Venice. It looked like an Italian or old
Right.
Greek city somehow. And
Mm.
that's the first time I really heard about it. But now when you go into all these like concepts, like when you do more research on it, you start finding more things on, oh, it was an actual continent, not just a city. It was like an entire area and everything.
Right. Yeah.
So that's, for me, that took a while to kind of see that maybe they were talking about two different things or the same thing, or no one really knows much about it, or too many people know different aspects of it and they can't really put the pieces together.
Yeah. Oh, they could have mixed quite a lot of they just basically just made stuff up. Excuse me. Like put a little bit of truth in there, wrapped in pretty much lies, and then that kind of thing. So like the majority of it is lies, but then there is some sort of core truths to it, possibly.
Yeah.
Like the flooding could have happened, for example, but then the location of it could be totally different. Or the people maybe could be, the description of the people could be accurate, but not the I don't know, because it was almost like it was another race as well, like the Atlanteans, would you say, or whoever lived there at that time. That was like they had sort of they were psychic in terms of the communication and stuff like that. They were, and giants and things as well. So it's whether or not they were more or less people just like us, sort of thing, or they were kind of a different like race or something, or almost, or
So you're asking my opinion on it?
Well, yeah, basically. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not sure. What I sort of think when it comes to the people from there. I've not really got like a solid kind of opinion, because of like the records and things what we've got to go off is kind of vague, really. Like you've got Plato, the sort of his descriptions and things, and then you've got the sort of pop culture version as well, which is kind of like a little bit like what you were saying there. Well, no, it's a documentary what you watched, yeah.
Yeah, I feel the documentary that I watched was like a mainstream version
Yeah,
of promoting a Atlantis concept. Usually, when people hear about Atlantis, they get it from the New Age, right? Like the entire
right.
New Age trap that, oh, we used to exist in Atlantis, and that's why you're reincarnated here because of your Atlantean history, and you're fulfilling your karma by
Right. Yeah. Is that a
volunteering
common
to
thing you
be
hear? Yeah.
here. It's like a
Yeah, I
huge,
know.
I guess it's in truther circles and also New Age circles. There's this overlap where people are just fascinated by it.
Yeah, there's definitely an overlap there without a doubt. I
Yeah,
mean,
so
I think
usually when the New Age talks about it, they talk about Lemuria, Atlantis,
mm,
and that we're so special because most of you are old souls and you've
mm.
experienced it. And that's why you came back here and you just lost your superpowers, or all of that stuff. Yeah.
Again, there could be a little grain of truth to that in some
There's a
way,
lot
shape,
of
or
truth
form.
to it. It's just all
Yeah,
inverted.
inverted, mixed up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is how they do it. I know.
So I do think even that one documentary, looking back onto it, I don't know what it was because I was still so young, and I don't know if I could find it just by researching it online. A lot of stuff just gets lost, after decades of it.
Yeah, and I
But
think they've kind of gone out of the way as well to push a lot of these other like narratives and stuff like that. I was reading an article that said something like, "Oh, there's 1,700 books been published about that." So I thought, well, if there's that much research and that many authors and that much kind of time and effort and energy and everything put into this, why don't we really know it for a fact what's gone on? Then kind of thing. So it seems to me like they've put all that effort into more or less obfuscating it or making it muddy in the water a little bit like that. That's where the energy's gone into that rather than kind of finding the truth out of this. Or like it's just maybe a little bit of a red herring or something like that, so everyone can kind of jump onto that. Look over there when you should be looking over there, or something like that. But there's other ones as well, isn't there? Like is the Mu as well, MU, the
yeah,
lost continent or something like
MU is supposed to be connected to Lemuria,
that. Right, yeah,
Lemu area.
right with you, yeah,
And
yeah,
then they say the Mu is like Australia or something. Yeah, or different. Yeah,
yeah.
that
It
Mu
seems
Mu was a continent or country.
mm, so it's the same sort of story again. So they could have been something where a race of people or a civilization or something like that was wiped out, possibly by a flood or something. Because I don't see how it can really sink, and go underwater really. Um, I guess it could do. There could be some way, but it just seems a little bit out there really. And then when we were talking about Tartaria as well, and the whole sort of like technology and how that was kind of integrated within the architecture and the different like how they got around and stuff and how they communicated and stuff like that. It's all totally different. So I think it could be a little bit when that they got rid of that. That's what we refer to as Atlantis kind of thing. So it's almost like it's a metaphor, really. It's not really actually happened. Maybe.
No, I do think Atlantis definitely happened. So
Right. Okay.
I'm still doing a lot of reading, like psychic readings on it, and there are a lot of blocks around it. So that's how they don't want the truth to get out there. But basically,
Right.
what I've got on it so far is it did exist. Lemuria existed. They could have been around the same time. Like another person I interviewed, like a few back in February, she was saying that Lemuria was basically a country and Atlantis is the continent, so if you
Yeah.
want to see it that way. For me, Lemuria kind of feels like it did coexist with Atlantis, but maybe it was earlier or a little bit later than it. But yeah, they did kind of exist around the same time. There's definitely an overlap with them. Now, the matter for me, the question is not whether or not it existed. The question is, where did it exist? Did it exist
Right.
on the
Yeah.
exact same plane that we are on right now? And I'm not sure it did. I think it might have existed. And then we were forced to kind of abandon where, let's just say we were on the earth. So this is an earth realm, right?
Yeah.
Wherever
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
because we don't really know where we are, right?
No,
Like
we
some
just
people
call
say
it a
we're on a ship.
biosphere. Mm.
So we're somewhere here, and Atlantis maybe happens above, and then we were kind of forced to go underground. And because when Atlantis was eradicated, when that earth plane kind of was eradicated, maybe even Noah's flood is related to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
So,
this is it. I mean, it's tricky to put that on a time frame, isn't it? Really, because I mean, obviously, it's the documentation is like from the going off the Bible, isn't it? Really, but you know, it obviously happened way before that. So you know,
well,
trying to
we
sort
don't
of pin it
know.
down.
We don't know
Well, no,
because
that's true.
some
That's true.
also
Yeah.
say the New Testament came before the Old Testament. It's all
Right. Yeah.
inverted.
Sure. Yeah. I know that could definitely be true.
Yeah, so I did get Atlantis existed. It's not what there's some truth to it, but it's not really, we're not getting what the New Age is telling us. Most of that is just hopium and really false.
Yeah.
But I do think so. What I also got in it, and this is like the December 2021, that we're still in it. So they did all of these experiments. They had all the AI, all the technology, and something went wrong. AI kind of turned against them. And now we're warped in this reality, this simulation, similar to the Matrix movies, where
Basically.
we're actually still in Atlantis, in the Atlantean experiment. It's like an Atlantean experiment that kind of went wrong.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
in it, and that's why we're messing with the time so badly. That's why we're missing certain things from the medieval ages. You know, where was Teteria? Did it really, like, they're messing with every single thing, and it all kind of has to do with the Atlantean experiment that's still playing out. And so they can really mess with our time, with
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
aging function too. So some people are able to age much faster than others, because time is kind of set in our own body too.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah, and for me, it's all related to Atlantis and the Atlantean experiment that's still playing out.
Yeah.
So I don't think
Maybe.
Atlantis is over. We're still in it. We just don't know it. We're just in a different aspect of it. So there used to be
Yeah.
this old Atlantis where people were really happy, dandy, whatever. They had all these superpowers. They were
Yeah.
able
Very
to. They
nice
did.
society.
They did all these experiments. They did experiments with like crossing people's bodies and animals' bodies and having these centaurus, the centaur
Oh, sure.
crossing, like
Is
just those kind
is
of
that
things.
is that the male with a bull body or something like that?
Yeah, so it's like a male body with a horse, no, so a male
Oh, with a
head with a horse
horse.
body, something like
Yes.
that. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
also up in the stars.
Yeah.
The
I
Centaurus
mean, that could tie in.
constellation is a
Oh, right.
constellation.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
I think all these constellations are just like a constant effing with our minds and kind of showing us it all exists, but not the way we think. You have like the bear, the hunter concept, all of those things. It's kind of like they project all these animals up in the stars.
Yeah. Definitely. I definitely get a vibe of that. That they are showing us some sort of bigger picture thing, but without saying it. Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
so we're giving consent by acknowledging it's around, but we don't know we're giving consent because we're so deep and under like a spell, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Buried in this reality or whatever.
So in my opinion, Atlantis existed, but it's not so much about Atlantis, whether or not it existed. It's more like, where did it exist? On which plane? And are we still in that same reality? I don't think we are. I think we're in a different reality somehow, a different simulation. And AI kind of got the overhand through Atlantis going wrong, and we're dealing with the aftermath of it.
Yeah, I think the AI is almost like a kind of like a byproduct of something else, though. Like a different sort of, let's say, evil sort of consciousness or whatever like that. And then that's kind of introduced AI to the world, sort of thing. And in the guise of like these scientists or whoever has invented this, and they haven't really, it was like always there, and they've just kind of facilitated its kind of coming into incarnation, really, or something.
Well, I feel the main AI was created during Atlantis, and then like the clones and all of that, and now they're able to create all this other AI that we're dealing with, the surveillance, the nanobots, the all of that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there's the what they kind of what we all sort of think of as AI is just a sort of like a non-sentient consciousness, which can just kind of be self-aware to an extent, but not where realistically there's a threat of this taking over the world or something like that, when actually I think in reality there is a threat of that. If it gets to a certain height or a certain kind of amount of power to it, because I don't see I can't see it sort of making a decision and saying, well, giving us the option, really. Once we kind of assimilated so much and it's in so much control of everything, like why would it sort of give us the power back? Really, I don't think it would. I think it'd just like carry on.
Yeah, I'm trying to go through some notes here that I had written up recently too. So no, what I kind of got was AI is already running this entire simulation in a way or another. That's why we're trapped here. But they can't power the simulation without the souls. So they can't power the simulation with other AI. The background characters and everything, they're just background characters. And so they need the souls to be here, but the souls need to be disempowered or under the illusion of disempowerment. And that's why we're under the constant reincarnation trap thing. We're powerless. We have to keep coming back, yada, yada. So there's a lot that goes into that. And I really feel a lot of that was set in motion in Atlantis, because I feel a lot of us back then, if we were around, maybe not everyone was around then, but the people who were around, we had superpowers, like really those type of superpowers that could split seas in half. You know what they're talking about in the Bible?
I see what you mean. Yeah,
that kind of those really did exist. We could make gold out of a metal, all of that. Whatever the superpowers are that people are striving for now, I think we all were able to do that. And then there was somehow an abuse of power, or somehow AI was created. So I don't know how. That's the thing. If we knew all the answers, I would
I think it's come from somewhere else. I don't think it's been created as such by anybody on this realm. I think it's come from somewhere
that it was infiltrated.
I don't know wherever, another planet or something. Yeah, basically, like, because you think about these energetic like beings and things like what you sometimes refer to it as AI. Like,
but if Atlantis didn't happen on this realm, then we were on a different realm before. We were just made to believe we're on the same Earth, but we're not on the same Earth.
Yeah, like not us physically. Then our sort of energetic beings, then, or like our soul, as it were, or something.
Yeah, I mean, if we're just kind of kept in the simulation that now we're on Earth, but we really aren't. We're somewhere in a ship. The Matrix movie where he's on a ship.
Yeah.
We're somewhere there. So we were maybe just in a different simulation that looked like Earth during Atlantis.
It's because I mean, when they've made such an effort to sort of cover it up and obfuscate it and blur all the lines together, and it's so hard to define exactly what's happened. That just shows you that there's definitely something to it anyway.
Well, in one of the Matrix movies they were talking about, they already had 6 resets.
Oh right, really? I didn't catch that one.
Yeah, that was from 2001. I only caught it because I had time to watch it on my flight over to Europe back in the summer. But basically, if we're doing this constant resetting thing, maybe Atlantis was just another reset from there.
I think if it was, then that was that was like a major one.
Yeah,
or like maybe the first major one, something like that. It wasn't like what the
Tartaria.
It wasn't like the Tartaria one, or it wasn't like the one at the turn of the century, which must have been relatively minor in terms of like we were all pretty much the same and everything was more or less as it is, but they just it was little. I think when Atlantis went down, that was maybe like as like biblical kind of thing. It was you know, it was as significant, like super significant kind of thing. Could tie in with like Pompeii a little bit. I kind of get like thinking with that, you know, like how they kind of blame that on natural, like a volcano or something, you know, and then that sort of like took that civilization out. You know, it could be, you know, something energetically anyway, a little bit like that, similar. And that was AD 76, I think, something like that. So that was, you know, it was
What they're saying, yeah, we don't know if that's
yeah.
true. Yeah, it
Oh no,
could have been BC.
I know. Well, this is if it was even the case, you know. I'm not sure if the volcanoes really work the way they say they work anyway.
Yeah, it could all just be manipulation, the way they're
Mm,
manipulating weather right now too. That's true.
yeah, yeah,
No, but I do think Atlantis was a major reset for sure. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
such an extent that we were thrown in yet another timeline somehow, because too
Mm.
many people were gaining their power, but they were possibly also misusing that power. And so maybe we were thrown into an entirely different Earth realm from there. So you know how people say we only existed for 2,000 years? Maybe that's because Atlantis was there. I don't know. The timelines are very blurry, but kind of what I got, and it's really hard to explain with the mind and analytical way. We're still in Atlantis. The Atlantean experiment is still playing out because we're still fighting with AI in a form or another. And that comes from Atlantis. And the AI is the stuff, it's not necessarily, you know, AI for you is what, like a laptop screen, cameras, all of that. That's a form of AI too. But by AI, I mean the AI that's trying to trap you here, that's trying to control you, the people around you that are AI, all of that comes from Atlantis. All those clones. I think you froze. Okay, so so we just had a lot of interference. Adam was basically kicked off for like 40
Yeah,
minutes, I think,
something like that.
and could not log back in. So
Yeah,
before that happens again, we're just
yeah,
going to go into screen sharing. So we kind of just discussed the entire AI thing, what Atlantis could be. You got some screens you want to share, like you got some pictures, some PDF files. I think it
yeah.
could
I
be
do have a few things. I think you need to enable that, Laura, and
okay.
then I can do that.
Let me just right. I think you should do it now.
Cool. Yeah, 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 yeah. Like you said, there's some sort of like articles, parts of you know, like newspaper archives and things like that.
Okay.
I just need to because we just had to. I've just done a full reboot of the system there, so I've just realised we've not got the stuff open.
Okay. No worries.
So, right.
Yeah. So I personally think there's. I personally think we're still in Atlantis. So when people say
Yeah,
Atlantis ended, yes and no. The old plane that it was on, it could have ended. Like let's just say, you know how they talk about Eden and paradise in the Bible? I don't think that was here where we are
yeah,
now.
yeah.
I think right now we're more like in this other realm. Some people call it the hell realm, and I think it's up to your perception where you are. So
What
I
about
think
the
it's more,
underworld?
hmm?
What about the underworld? Possibly.
Yeah, yeah. The underworld is still beneath us,
Yeah,
but I also got information that we're somewhere. We're not like outside in the fresh air. We're just somehow like inside, and
yeah,
it's just that we're inside these huge cave-like structures, like cave-like taverns. But yeah, let's focus on
yeah, yeah,
your
yeah. So this is what I've just found when I've just been kind of looking around in archives and stuff like that. This seems to be fairly sort of classic, sort of typical. What you find is that it will kind of like move around, you know, the where they were saying it was. So sometimes it'll be in you know, this sea, that sea, or wherever. It's saying it's in Nigeria here. There's a lot of reports of it being in Africa or there and thereabouts. But then again, I have seen it like even saying it's in the North Sea. So that's just where Scotland is, basically, I think, isn't it? So and that's in 1912. You know, and they were sort of saying like, well, examination of, you know, architectural stuff or like artifacts and stuff like that, and you know, the things do point to this. So it could be. So there could be some truth to that. It sort of says here in the midst of Africa, in the form of magnificent garments which showed the influence of Persian culture on Byzantine foundation. So you've seen a couple of crossover stuff there of different cultures, all in Africa. So it seems a bit quite a lot really to say that it's that. But anyway, I'll go through some of these. This is one which I took this out of another book just to sort of like show the scale. It's all in sort of like Latin if you look at the text. You're on mute, Laura. You're muted, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm muted. Yeah, I know.
Oh, right. Yeah, it was intentional. Sorry, I didn't realize that. So, yeah, just to look at the scale of the person there, I'm just wondering if you think that could be a possible thing, and also whether or not any of this could be tech. Like the headgear or the this item.
All right, similar to Tartaria, where they just have that thing that sends up rays or kind of is like an energy device. So this is Atlantis, is what they said.
Well, I think this was I think it's from that time. So I was just kind of like thought I'd just throw it in there, kind of thing.
So she's kind of walking on this landscape.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing. I mean, we can sort of skip about on these pictures. It's what they claimed was like an SS Nazi baby farm kind of thing. I was talking about the asexual reproduction, which they could have had. It's just whether or not they had the technology and they were using it at that time. Meaning the 1930s, possible anyway. Because here's some of the pages what we were sort of discussing, and I think it shows the originally there were no sexes on Lemuria. The ancestors of humanity being self-fertilizing egg layers, eventually Lemurians did develop sexual organs. See, develop, but they were so. Yeah, I don't believe that as a sort of as a narrative, but possibly again there could be a little bit of truth to the there was no sexes, and hence why all this transgender stuff at the moment is kind of, let's say, taking off or whatever, because somewhere deep in history there is knowledge of that, maybe. Also we see here the secrets of transmutation were well understood. The gold and silver were as common as iron. So
where people were able to make gold out of a random metal. I think so. Because how the alchemist, it's all about making gold out of random metals, like that kind of, like precious metals. Now, what I do want to say, so they're saying there were no sexes on Lemuria, meaning male, female.
Yeah, I'm guessing it was just one, as opposed to the duality sort of thing, what we have now.
Okay, so sex and gender, the way it's that's also an interesting. Why is there a focus on gender now? Not so much sexes, but gender. Right? Like sex is more of that is gender a biological thing, or is that more of a societal thing? I forgot what the difference between them was again. I'm sure we could look it up, but that's just something that I was thinking about, because right now it's not the transsexual, it's the transgender.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Thing, which is basically trying to confuse people from a child on whether or not they think they're male or female, even though they're clearly a male or female. Because they're doing that with the entire RuPaul drag race stuff that they're pushing on kids nowadays. So also, if Lemuria was just an aspect of Atlantis, like let's just say Germany is a country in Europe, right? Lemuria is a country in Atlantis. Maybe they were starting this experiment in Lemuria and wanted to bring it to entire Atlantis. That could be a thing if it really happened that way. Eventually, Lemurians did develop sexual organs.
It says develop, but that implies like either evolution or something like that, and then it gives this sort of slightly ridiculous.
And they mated with animals as well. Yeah, that could be because the entire experiments of the cross between, a man and
I see what you mean.
Horse,
yeah, maybe.
All of it. Yeah, for sure. It could have been. or crossing like a dog with another something.
Well, wasn't that thing about the King Minos in Crete and
Oh
the
yeah.
white bull, what have you? That's the story of that.
Oh, is that
So
the Ariadne
yeah, yeah. So I
labyrinth
mean,
story where she gets lost in the labyrinth? And yeah, okay, that could be. And that's like supposed to be a god or goddess story, right? But let's just
yeah,
assume
something
they
like that.
really did exist in Atlantis and Lemuria. It just all got distorted somehow.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's records of like, I mean, the whole legend of that. They would sort of like send, kids or whatever over there, like a bit sort of Epstein kind of ish, a little bit.
Oh yeah,
Um,
could be.
so this is like what we get told is what we do for like particle acceleration and all this sort of stuff, and how you can restructure uh, protons of the nucleus within the atom and all of this. I mean, I question it really. It's come from the same book, so, but I think again the book is kind of mixed. A little bit of truth with a little bit of lies as well. So that's what we get told for alchemy, whereas the real stuff, is something totally different. And the reason I'm sort of pointing out Stonehenge is because it seems to me that any sort of unexplainable stuff, they just kind of go Atlantis. So within that writing there, it's sort of saying that Stonehenge, monolithic structure, etc. So it must be Atlantis, kind of thing. Just writes it off. There's another one here about somewhere in Africa. Ifan Benign is an early African sculpture, and again, it's like it seems to be just a bit of an easy thing to do, to just go, Atlantis kind of thing. There's like the problem of Atlantis is extraordinarily fascinating, and many similarities in the early cultures of the Mediterranean and Mexico make it impossible not to believe that there was considerable communication between the two continents long before Columbus crossed the Atlantic. So wherever they were getting the knowledge about all the buildings from, that was kind of like a universal knowledge, is what I'm thinking. Maybe there was sort of like communication, like telepathic or something.
Well, maybe the continents were all together, right? Isn't
Well,
that
yeah, possibly,
that
yeah,
people just kind of walked around in these different, yeah.
yeah. So some of that stuff there. All right. So here, like drowned continents, dark knowledge. Now, again, I was sort of just pointing out like how it's being kind of written about, because this is just out of like an occult book sort of thing, and it's Black Temple, Red Temple, torturous ways. You see all this. It's like just the way it was being portrayed, as in like that. There's a real sort of like sadness or trauma or something associated with it. What is kind of hard to sort of pick out of this, really. But I think there's something to it, definitely. Or also, this is perilous to think upon the Key of Solomon. So that's like, you shouldn't even think about it. Even thinking about it is something bad happens, perilous. So we could maybe talk about that a little bit later, and we'll see. I think that's a pretty good depiction of what it could have been like. But it's again, what we see is similar to what the Tartaria kind of style of culture, or like civilization, stuff like that. You know what I mean? The huge pillars and these domes, stuff like that, free energy harvesting, that kind of thing. Very luxurious, all like a nice, very beautiful and what have you.
So the narrative of Tartaria and Atlantis is just getting mixed up. So
I
we're
think so.
kind of intermeshed. Okay.
Yeah, like they've done it deliberately, sort of mingled them together. So yeah, psychic powers here. Let's just read this part. Mount Shasta Community Preserves. So it would seem the knowledge, physical and superphysical, interesting word, of their drowned homeland. They have aircraft which are propelled at great speed by a sort of psychic force, the very existence of which is unsuspected by the most modern science. So they're telling us there straight away that there is something which we don't utilize at the moment, like a capability within us. And I think again, there's something to that. They have the power to leave their bodies at will, and all of them are telepathic. Their telepathic abilities are centered in an organ which manifests itself by a bump in the middle of their foreheads, which is probably what I think, in like King Tut with the little snakes what pop out the front of the head in the Egyptian rock carvings and things.
Uh-huh.
He always has a little
Tutankhamun.
Yeah, Tutankhamun. Like he has that sort of like a little cobra thing kind of coming out the front.
Okay, so that's Egyptian mythology.
Yeah,
Okay.
But it's because it's saying the same thing, a bump in the middle of the forehead, and that's where that is. So I don't know. It's just whenever I see a pattern, I sort of think there might be something there,
And then there's also the third eye that's being pushed right now. Okay.
Yeah. So whether that's all the sort of like pineal gland or something else, I'm not sure, but yeah, I think there's something to that. So this was like about Poseidon, sort of just pointing out that
if you go back to that other slide again.
Oh yeah.
So scroll in again on the second column. They were saying something about English. Yeah, go down.
Oh, right, yeah. Strange habit of speaking with English accents enables those who are sufficiently observant to distinguish them from the other inhabitants of Northern California. Right.
Okay. Strange.
This together with the strange habit.
All right.
Northern California. Like they could have kind of been rubbing shoulders a little bit at one point. But they would always talk with English accents. I mean, that sounds a bit silly, really. I don't know. Maybe. Do you think?
Well, when was this supposed to be? Was this in the 1900s or?
Yeah, it's not really dated, is it? I don't think. These facts, together with even more surprising assertions, are to be found in the late sort of Bitchute survey, is it? Lemuria, the lost continent of the Pacific. Right, so that's putting it in the Pacific.
So the entire thing about Lemuria is that Australia, Hawaii, all of those are supposed to be part of Lemuria. Whether or not that's the Mu continent is supposed to be Australia.
Right. So, yeah, I think the Lemuria and the Mu being kind of connected in some sort of deep way. That's probably accurate. I think. Mentioning Aleister Crowley there, I just noticed.
Yeah.
It's whether that's trying to sort of associate it with some sort of like, give it a dark kind of thing, intentionally, so people stay away from it or something. This is just a little bit about Poseidon, and because I think he may have been, if it's not entirely mythology, then it could be something to do with Atlantis, or it could just be completely made up. It sort of says the Tritons there, Aphrodite's entourage and personal bodyguards, fish-tailed male sea spirits, whom mythology tells us evolved from Triton, the son of Greek sea god Poseidon.
So Poseidon is a Greek sea god, and they had sons and all of that. And Aphrodite, like the entire mythology is just giving us the gods, basically the superpower people that used to exist in one form or another. Can you scroll?
Oh yeah. Do you want to zoom up a bit? So I mean, yeah, these are sort of talking about like putting them in the thing as mermen, which is kind of interesting. I've got a little more on the next page here. Let me show this.
So they're talking about mermaids and mermen.
Yeah. Mermen in the sky. Triton is the largest moon of the planet Neptune. How accurate that is. Again, the sea god Neptune, for whom the planet was named in 1846 is the Roman version of the Greek Poseidon, Triton's father. So, yeah, I like it, sort of saying, tying it to Rome a little bit there. I've not looked into the great sort of sea creature, but I've seen some books about it, but it's something I'm going to research that a little bit more as well. So anyway, so I think that could have been. So here we are with the asexual reproduction again, the whole baby incubator sort of like not scandal. It's just quite an interesting thing that, like, once upon a time they invented these devices, and then all of a sudden all these babies started popping up everywhere. Like we've saved them, kind of thing. I don't think that, I think they just created them, somehow.
What year is this?
This will be round about turn of the century-ish, 1900-ish.
So they just put all these babies into the world?
Yeah, well, they say that, we invented this technology which keeps them alive, like, what you say, premature birth and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how sort of premature a baby can get born, and none of it adds up, basically. And it was also like a traveling sideshow kind of a thing at one point. Come and see the babies, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, it's very, very unusual.
And this is in England or in the US?
I think it was all over the world. It was the US as well, with the what do you call them, like the World's Fairs. It was kind of like part of that, yeah. This was something, the Bermuda Triangle is the only kind of solid thing what I could find where there was a connection to it, and it was something pretty unusual. So also known as the Hoodoo Sea, the graveyard of the Atlantic, remains one of the most perplexing phenomena of nature within the area of Western Atlantic off Florida. 1,000 human beings since 1945 have literally vanished off the face of the earth with no earthly explanation. So this is something what we can observe. How true it is, I don't know, but I think there's definitely something going on.
Yeah, it's so funny. I actually used to know someone who lived in Bermuda.
Really?
Yeah.
On what?
I think by flight, it's like 2 hours from New York. And he was British, so he was kind of transferred over to Bermuda for like 2 or 3 years by a British company, because they're kind of still connected to Great Britain somehow. I don't know how. They're so like kind of like airwise on that thing. They're kind of like just a straight airline from New York, basically. They're kind of on the same, whatever you call that.
I mean, have you got anything for the earthly explanation?
No, so I actually wanted to know about it from him.
Right, yeah.
Because it's, Bermuda Triangle, but yeah.
Well, I think somebody told me that it's some remnant of Atlantis anyway, which is what's causing this phenomenon.
I think it's the portal or something, and it probably has to do with military experiments they're doing.
Yeah, possibly. Well, I heard about the undersea pyramids as well. I'll get to that in a sec. And this is just some sort of like pop culture, Bermuda Triangle popping up around and stuff like that, kind of making it out to be a bit like just a sort of a trashy kind of, like not something you probably not going to be too interested. Low budget trash goes the supernatural thriller, that kind of thing. So they're dressing it up to be just like some bullshit kind of fake kind of phenomenon or what have you. This is just interesting that the year 2022, suffers a mysterious loss of power, but again, it's just like trashy B-movie stuff. So this, I mean, those photographs or whatever they are quite sketchy, but if that's true as a thing, it could go some way to explaining it anyway, or it could be kind of clear indication that yes, this is where there was, Atlantis was around that area, maybe, possibly.
Or there's like a civilization and we built upon that somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was the same sort of thing to what we see in Egypt, but somehow they were utilized the crystal, structures, into a pyramid or whatever for energy flow or something like that. This is another thing because of the we were talking about mythologies and stuff like that. Like this is a German photograph from the book the coming of the fairies, if you've heard of that one. So I had a copy of it there in the library, and it says here, flower fairy like a large butterfly standing erect has jumped onto the hand from the flower seen behind. So the book is written as if these let's say energetic beings or something like that, but they're actually here in this realm, kind of thing. And this is how the photographs are presented. They sort of say that because they can be faked, that's not, you shouldn't assume that they are just because they can be. So like if you ask anybody about it and say like, oh, they're coming to the fairies, they go, oh yeah, it's a classic sort of fake hoax or whatever. But the book itself, if you read it, it says, yes, they can be faked, this kind of thing, but don't assume that they are just because it can be, sort of thing. And I kind of agree with that, like there could be something to it. So this is something you might be able to, I don't know, deconstruct this a little bit. Special spiritual secrets from the lost city of Atlantis are ready to be revealed, and all this. This is the astonishing claim of leading author, healer, and angel light worker Diana Cooper. You heard of her?
I'm not sure.
So this is 2005. This article.
Okay. Yeah.
I think what they've done here, they've done a bit of mixing. Like they've thrown some truth in there, but a lot of it's bullshit. There was a golden period of Atlantis for 1500 years, which was a very special time, a time of heaven on earth, and the most spiritual time there has ever been on this planet. Everyone lived in a wonderful community, and they all glowed with light as their vibration was at a much higher dimension. So it does sound like the sort of typical new age kind of spiel, but I think because it's framed within just a normal article or whatever, it's not, it's just for normal people to read. It's not for kind of enthusiasts or anything to read. It's just for, just ordinary people kind of thing. But this kind of summarizes it. Okay, the legend of Atlantis is one of the oldest mysteries in the world. It is said to have been destroyed by floods or a great ice and sank beneath the Atlantic Ocean, with the only tips of its tallest mountains remaining. These are believed to be the Canary and Azores, islands, and Bermuda. So, we're seeing something there. I think there is some sort of connection there, but I'm not sure. To be honest, what kind of percentage is true and what kind of percentage is just they've just made it up or whatever.
And then she's talking about awareness and belief in angels, so directing you towards that program.
Yeah, that was an interesting part, actually.
All right,
yeah. So when you say angels, you mean?
What was the other picture? Oh, you're back there. Okay.
Oh yeah, it was King Solomon. So meaning.
Oh really? That looks like a typical British king, doesn't it?
Yeah.
King Solomon from the Bible?
Yeah, well,
he was in Israel, no?
It could well be. I'm not overly familiar with the story. Like I say, I was looking it up in the book, and it says that it's perilous to think upon, so you shouldn't even think about it, apparently.
Yeah, but so I mean, we're probably not going to have time to go into Avalon, whatever. But Avalon, I kind of feel so around the year in the medieval ages, like up until 1500, 1600, whatever, they actually had this chamber. I think they still have that chamber, but it's this Hebrew chamber or Israeli chamber somehow one of the I don't know if it's the Windsor Castle or a different castle, and it has like this tapestry of the Abraham story and other biblical stories. So there is a connection between England and the Israel narrative, and also the Templar Knights, the Templars, their route was from Istanbul to England, basically. and further.
Yeah,
So
well,
from the Holy Land, from Israel, Turkey, Constantinople.
yeah, it's something what I need to look into. I mean, yeah, like I've kind of like scratched the surface a little bit, but not overly kind of, you know, too much looked into it.
Yeah, there's a huge connection between what the Holy Land, which is Israel area, and
Yeah.
England for sure. Because the Templars were basically all about finances too, like bringing currencies back and forth. That's why they were also robbed on the way.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And so it's, if you're talking about a world currency back then, or a financial system like the banking system, the Templars were kind of part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the English church was connected to that somehow. Or not the English church, the English
Kind of
royalty. Well, it's church and royalty. It's the same thing, right? They all believed
yeah,
in
more or
church
less.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
clergy crosses. Yeah,
The
there's
Vatican too. They were all connected because the Vatican controlled the English royals, basically.
Yeah, and there probably is still a lot of control there at the moment.
So that's supposed to be King Solomon, but he basically looks like a regular king you would find portrayed in the 1100s in England.
Mm. Yeah, like I say, this is just a picture of what I've got. You know,
Oh, Solomon's Key.
yeah,
Oh,
Solomon's
okay.
Key. That's the thing. Yeah, Solomon's Key.
Oh, interesting. Who has the key though?
I know, and what's it all about? I mean, like I say, it's a you know, it warns that it's perilous to think upon. So even by thinking about it is I don't know, perilous. So you know, maybe we'll get into that on another time possibly.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay, just briefly looking it up. They're also making a Nintendo game out of it, or a puzzle game or something, like a computer game. Okay, interesting. Computer game is like AI.
It is. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
it.
Okay. All right. So were that all the screens to share?
Yeah, that's everything I got together for the
Okay.
that Atlantis exploration there. But yeah, I think it's a good thing. You know, maybe I'll do a bit of a deep dive on the Lemuria or some, you know, a different one, and you know, like I think that like the pieces are coming together okay. So
I think Avalon's connected to all of that too. Which that's more where you are in that area.
Yeah. Well, I've been kind of looking into the Arthurian sort of times with folklore, you know, and what the hell was happening with like fairies, elves, and all this kind of stuff. Like, I think it either coexisted or it existed in a separate. You know, either way, there was something to it around about that time. King Arthur as well. There's a lot, and it's difficult to distinguish what's kind of mythological versus what's kind of actual historical. But yeah, it's an interesting topic anyway. I sort of like urge people to research that.
So the articles were mainly saying Atlantis is a continent and was flooded, and now you can still see the tips of the mountains or whatever. But okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking
maybe
that's kind of sketchy to me. That
I still think Atlantis existed on a different realm, and we were kind of thrown somewhere else after that through AI technology that we can't really imagine right now because we're just missing the entire context behind it. The same way they kind of created all of these Centauruses and everything. It's hard to imagine for people right now because we're missing the context, right? If we kind of knew this is how they did it, I mean, yeah. So Lemuria is supposed to be around where Hawaii, certain parts of Hawaii, like Maui or whatever. Kauai is another island, and then also parts of Australia, New Zealand, Japan.
Yeah. I read
I've been there.
Oh, really?
It felt okay. I mean, before 2020, it was okay. Sure, yeah, beautiful landscape. A lot of things do look similar, you know, like certain islands in Hawaii and things in Australia do look similar. I do have to say that, but all over the world, it looks similar. You know, you go to Nairobi, Africa, and you go to Southwest US, basically Utah, Arizona, that landscape is similar.
Yeah, that's consistent, I've found.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
landscapes just kind of repeat each other over and over again, which would be the theory that everything used to be together. That would be kind of supporting that theory in a way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
And maybe it was all just terraformed, and then, by I think it was just strip mined basically, and then
right,
everything was created by, well, no, I don't want to say man, but like possibly was, and then somehow then the water was brought in or whatever, yeah, and then that's what we all call the sea. um and then we've only got real a memory of it in a kind of in terms of like epigenetic memory or something like that. We haven't got any direct memories of it or records of it. It's all gone. Maybe with the library of what was it now, when they burnt all the scrolls and stuff like that, the
oh, the one in
Alexandria.
Greece
Yeah, was it in Greece? Yeah.
or
Oh no,
yeah,
Egypt.
was it Egypt or Greece? The one where they
Yeah, the Library of Alexandria. I think that's probably where the knowledge of it was,
right,
and
that's in
then
Egypt. Yeah.
that had gone. Yeah, that went, sort of thing. But yeah, but like I say, I think some of the knowledge is coming back. But I think we are being gaslit a little bit by some of the like the new cages and stuff like that. Sort of jumping on the back of it and saying that, oh, the like the energy's coming back or something like that, and it's
Right.
just like, yeah, how long is it? When's that? So like, since when, and when will, like hopium kind of thing. They're just saying, using it basically as a,
Yeah, I mean, it's like there is some truth to it, and we do carry that memory with us somehow. But now we're being confused by all these mainstream articles and the New Age articles who are kind of saying now you have to pray to the angels, like that Diana Cooper person.
yeah.
I just looked her up. She seems to still be around, actually. So she was all about angels and ascension, Atlantis. Interesting that people like that are still around for so long after keep predicting ascension, and it's not really occurring, right? But yeah, it kind of tells you a lot about that movement. Okay, should we leave it at that? Wait, I think your microphone has popped out. Okay, so we're having technical issues during this recording. His microphone seems to not be working, so we're just going to end it here, and I'm going to stop the recording.